Tonight we step into a world of mud-caked boots, clinking coin pouches, and the scent of spiced wine mixing with horse dung. You're not a knight, not a scribe, not even a local baker. Nope, you're a traveling merchant, hustling medieval collectibles through winding roads and muddy markets, and you probably won't survive this. Your cart wobbles on its one good wheel, your mule has already bitten 3 people today, and your last customer tried to pay you with a chicken that may or may not have been cursed. Welcome to your life. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know who else is wide awake and wandering with me tonight. Now ease back. Maybe crack a window for that cool breeze or wrap yourself in your softest blanket. Let the dark settle around you. Take a breath and follow me back. You're 37 years old, which in this era is basically ancient wizard territory. You own 1 tunic, 2 boots, neither matching, and a locked box filled with what you tell people are sacred artifacts, lost coins, and relics of ancient glory. In truth, it's a mixed bag. A cracked chalice, a saint's pinky bone, allegedly, and a fragment of something that might be Roman or just very old plumbing. The year is 1278, and you're somewhere between Bruges and not quite somewhere else. You left home years ago after an argument over inheritance, a runaway pig, and a wager involving dice, all of which may or may not be related. The road ahead is long, dusty, and full of folks who want to cheat you, or worse, feed you turnip stew. The first village appears like a damp dream out of the mist. Roofs slump like tired men. Children gawk. Someone spits. Classic welcome. You trundle in, hoping to trade your authentic relics for some coin, food, and maybe the luxury of not getting stabbed tonight. Inside the tavern, things go okay. A drunk knight buys your rusted brooch, convinced it belonged to Charlemagne's dog. You pocket the coin. Another man insists on testing your holy comb by brushing his greasy beard with it, then decides it's haunted. He chucks it at your face. You sleep behind the tavern with your cart wheels chained. The chain's more ceremonial than protective. Anyone who wants your goods bad enough is getting them. But still, it makes you feel like you're doing security. At dawn, the sound of a bagpipe wakes you. It's not charming. It's like a goose is being strangled rhythmically. A local bard offers to trade a song for one of your glorious Roman spoons. You agree just to shut him up. He sings anyway, about your feet, and how they smell. You learn quickly that your real talent isn't the relics. It's storytelling. You tell a widow her pendant once touched the shroud of St. Bridget. You tell a blacksmith that the chipped spearhead he bought was used at Hastings. Was it? Historians still argue whether relics like these even existed in such quantity, or if medieval folks were just very enthusiastic hoarders with vivid imaginations. Your tales earn trust, or at least curiosity. And once, in a pinch, you invent a bishop who canonized frogs. The buyer weeps and buys the frog toe charm. You almost feel bad. Almost. You pick your way south. The terrain shifts, less mud, more forest. You pass slow-moving carts, pilgrims on their way to nowhere, and once, a man in a robe who claims to be a prophet. He tries to trade you a chicken for the tooth of St. Agnes. You're tempted, but the chicken looks at you funny. You pass. Nights are the hardest. You light a fire when you can. Coyotes howl, insects buzz, and once you wake to a shape, human-sized, sniffing around your cart. You don't scream. You just sit up and say, "Prices have gone up." It slinks off. You still don't know if it was a thief, a ghost, or just another broke merchant. One afternoon, you find yourself beside a shallow river. You bathe, if standing knee-deep and throwing water at your face counts. You scrub at the grime, stare at your reflection. You look tired, like a man who's sold one too many cracked goblets to one too many men with swords. You whisper to yourself, "Let's get rich this time." The next town over is bigger. Not quite a city, but close. It has a watchtower, cobbled streets, and the smell of bread strong enough to make you emotional. You pay a stall fee with one of your better coins. The steward bites it, shrugs, lets you in. Market days here are a sport. Merchants scream prices. Criers announce royal decrees. Children try to pickpocket you. You slap hands away with one of your sacred bones. You meet a woman selling herbs. She eyes your wares, laughs, and hands you something wrapped in leaves. "Eat that when you need to lie better," she says. You ask if it works. She just smiles. Later, you chew it and tell someone your reliquary contains the nail of St. Peter. They pay full price. The leaf? Probably just mint. But you keep a stash now just in case. A scholar visits your stall. He quizzes you on Latin inscriptions. You nod wisely, say, "Ah, yes, that is an early vulgar dialect." He buys a cracked medallion and gives you a suspicious glance as he walks away. You wonder if he'll come back with guards. He never does. Not all days go well. One rainy morning, you slip, your box falls, and out rolls the saint's pinky. Kid kicks it. His mother screams. You say it's a test from the heavens. She drops a coin at your feet. The kid cries. You pocket the coin. You keep moving. You can't settle. Partly because you're always chasing coin, partly because staying too long means your stories catch up with you. You pass through regions where plague rumors hang heavy. One town closes its gates. Another won't touch your relics without gloves. You adapt. You start selling plague protection charms. Bits of stone wrapped in cloth. You say they were blessed by a monk who never coughed once in 10 years. They sell out. By now, your cart is leaner, lighter. You've traded, sold, and maybe lost half your stock. But your tongue is sharper. Your story's tighter. Your lies almost poetic. One night, a fellow merchant camps near you. He sells spices and silks. Real ones. He has a real mule. A real tent. You hate him, but you swap stories. Share bread. He teaches you a game using bones and carved sticks. You lose badly. He tells you there's a fair coming, a big one. Nobles, knights, buyers from the east. He says, "Get there first. Set up at the west gate. Sell the scepter early." Nobles love scepters. You don't have a scepter yet, but you plan to carve one tomorrow. Out of firewood. Add some fake gold leaf. Call it the Ember Staff of St. Aldrich. Has a nice ring. Before sleep, you watch the stars. Somewhere out there is your fortune. Or your death. Or another angry buyer looking for a refund. You sigh. Close your eyes. Tomorrow, the fair. Tomorrow, the story grows. Morning fog sticks to your clothes like guilt. You wake stiff, cold, and with a beetle lodged in your beard. You flick it off and thank the universe for another day of survival, which feels like an increasingly generous miracle. You load up your cart with what's left. Half-true relics, a carved scepter that still smells like yesterday's campfire, and enough bravado to fill a cathedral. The fair is 3 days away, and it's already buzzing through the merchant grapevine like lice through a monastery. They say noble families will be there, clergy with coin, collectors of the odd and sacred. This is your moment. You've rehearsed your pitch. You've even brushed your tunic with a pine branch to make it smell less like old soup. The road is thick with others like you, sellers with wheels creaking under spices, beads, tools, charms, and very suspicious-looking statues. A group of musicians plays badly from a cart shaped like a swan. You walk beside a woman hawking healing honey, which is mostly wax and hope. You trade her a cracked goblet for a jar. Later, you taste it. It's awful. You keep it anyway. By midday, a fork in the road presents itself. Left leads through the forest, faster but less safe. Right follows the river, slow but traveled. You choose the forest. Why? Because you're behind schedule and slightly reckless. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Answer, everything. The trees close in like teeth. The path narrows. Your mule hates it. So do you. You meet one traveler. A man carrying 2 crows and humming a funeral song. You don't ask questions. You do not make eye contact. Then trouble. A rope snaps your mule short. 2 figures step out from behind trees. Faces covered, blades drawn. One says, "Give us the good stuff." You look at your cart and laugh. "Joke's on you," you say. "None of it's good." They're not amused. You toss them a fake relic and claim it's cursed. The braver one grabs it, then frowns. You lean in and whisper, "Last man who touched that grew extra teeth." They hesitate. You fake a twitch. Then, divine luck, your mule kicks straight into one of them. You run, cart bumping, heart pounding, breath slicing through the cold. You make it out. Somehow. No coin lost. One fake relic lighter. But you're shaking for miles. You camp at the edge of the woods, trembling beside a weak fire. Your cart leans. One of the wheels has cracked. You bind it with rope, praying it holds long enough to reach the fair. Your mule gets an extra apple from your stash. Hero of the hour. Sleep finds you like a thief. Sudden, cold, full of regret. You dream of relics melting into wax, of voices asking if you offer refunds. You wake with your hair stiff from dew. You reach the fair on the third day. The land opens like a wound in the hills. Tents, banners, smells both glorious and revolting. Meat roasts beside latrines. Drums beat somewhere far too early. Bells ring from the chapel. Welcome to prosperity, medieval style. You snag a corner stall near the west gate, just like the spice merchant suggested. Good spot, foot traffic, shade, and a steady stream of gullible nobility. You unpack your goods with dramatic flair. The carved scepter takes center stage. You dust it off, bless it with a dramatic wave, and place a small tag, used by Saint Aldrich to smite doubt. A boy walks by, stares. You offer him a beetle in trade for a good rumor. He says, "That bishop over there? Big into bones." You nod and pass him a second beetle. The boy grins and runs. You make your pitch to passers-by with smooth precision. A cup once kissed by Saint Wilfrid. A nail from the original ark. No, not that ark, the other one. Hair from a nun who saw a vision of fire, then sneezed it out. The nobles start to circle. One lady, wrapped in fur and entitlement, points at your scepter. "Is that gold?" You nod. "Blessed gold. Won't melt, won't tarnish, only glows under moonlight." She squints. "I see no glow." You shrug. "Wrong moon phase." She buys it. Later, you watch a crowd around a man selling dragon teeth. You wander over. His teeth look suspiciously like horse molars. You raise an eyebrow. He nods once. Mutual respect. Same trade, same lies. You return to your stall to find a monk poking through your relics. He picks up the comb, mutters a prayer, then says, "You know this is elm wood?" You nod. "Elm blessed by a drowned saint." He snorts. "They always drown, don't they?" You smile. "Keeps things dramatic." He buys it anyway. One evening, a group of armored guards rolls in. Word is, a noble's child lost a relic bought at the last fair. Accusations fly. The mood shifts. Traders whisper. Buyers clutch their bags tighter. You consider packing early, but you're stubborn, and slightly broke again, so you switch tactics. You offer temporary relics. Rentals, really? Pay less, pray more. The illusion of holiness without commitment. People love it. One night even asks for a blessing from your patron saint. You choose a random name. Saint Odric, you say. Patron of travelers, merchants, and mild stomach upset. The knight kneels. You bless him. He tips you a silver. The next morning, a woman demands to see your merchant's license. You don't have one. You panic, then claim to be part of the king's Relic Recovery Guild. She blinks. You add, Special Royal Task Force. Very hush-hush. She lets it go. Possibly because your mule is eating her cloak. By the last day of the fair, you've sold almost everything. All that remains is a cracked bowl, a tooth that probably belonged to a dog, and a very confident spider that has claimed your cart as its home. You leave richer. Not wealthy, but enough to replace your wheel, bribe a gatekeeper, and maybe even stay indoors tonight. You think about settling, maybe finding a storefront, but the road calls. You know this life, mud, danger, the high of the sail, the low of near death. Plus, you haven't yet sold the holy pebble of Saint Ignatius. You made it up last night. It's just a rock, but you believe in its story now. That has to count for something. You roll your cart away from the fairgrounds as dawn stretches long across the hills. Your mule snorts. Your boots squish. The wind smells like wood smoke and opportunity. Behind you, the fair quiets. Ahead of you, the world waits to be lied to lovingly, gently, for coin. You grin. Another village. Another market. Another story. The road after the fair is flatter, smoother, and lined with wildflowers that try a little too hard to be poetic. You trudge past them anyway, your cart a few pounds lighter, your pouch a few coins heavier. The mule seems smug about surviving the forest bandits, as if it were her idea. You don't correct her. She kicked a thief in the chest. You owe her some respect. Your first stop is a town called Barrenwall. It's not on every map, but it appears just when you need it, like a sneaky prayer or a rash. There's a market tomorrow, but you've come for a different reason. Restocking. Your stockpile's bare. You need merchandise, which is to say weird, broken, old things that might pass as magical, sacred, or at least confusing. You spend the evening at a grimy tavern called the Split Trout, sipping warm ale and watching the locals play a dice game with incomprehensible rules. One man loses his boots. Another wins a pig. No one seems surprised. You strike up a quiet chat with an older woman near the hearth. She smells like dust and secrets. You mention relics. She leans in. "I've got something," she says. "But it's not for just anyone." Classic setup. You're hooked. She leads you to a tiny cottage stuffed with baskets and bones. She hands you a sack containing what looks like a dried hand, mummified, curled, and unervingly elegant. "From a saint," she whispers, "or a thief." Historians still argue whether the bones of thieves could hold holiness. You buy it, obviously. You also grab a tarnished pendant and a spoon with a skull carved into the handle. Good filler pieces. You try not to think too hard about where any of it came from. At dawn, you set up a small display in Barrenwall's modest square. Not many shoppers, mostly farmers and fishmongers. Still, you sell the pendant to a traveling friar who claims to sense a tingle. You assure him it's the aura, not indigestion. A child offers you 2 radishes for the skull spoon. You counter with 3. Deal struck. A passing knight scoffs at your dried hand. "That's not a saint's relic," he grumbles. You reply, "No, it's from the saint's scribe. Very rare. Saints write, but scribes make them sound smart." He doesn't get it. Moves on. You keep the hand. The market closes early for a feast day. Saint Loria, protector of sleepwalkers and quiet goats. You attend out of curiosity. There's singing, bread, and far too many candles. Someone drops one. Fire breaks out briefly. A miracle no one's singed. That night, you sleep in a stable. It's warm, quiet, and smells like old hay and horse farts. You dream of coins falling like rain. When you wake, you find a real coin under your blanket. Probably fell from your belt. You pretend it's a sign. You head west now, toward larger cities, bigger crowds, more lies to sell with charm and a smile. Along the way, you stop at a roadside shrine dedicated to St. Felwyn, said to have turned bandits into badgers. There's a tiny donation box. You leave a pebble, take nothing, but whisper a thank you just in case. The road has enough bandits already. At a crossroads, you meet a fellow merchant. He's dragging a 2-wheeled cart packed with stained cloths and broken charms. You talk shop. He shares a tip. The town of Darnwick is flush with gold, thanks to a recent mining boom and some very bad spending decisions by the mayor. Darnwick is 4 days away, and the road there is all hills and regret. But you go. You're in the business of dreams, after all. And dreams love gold. Halfway there, you find something odd. A fallen tree carved with strange runes. You don't recognize the symbols. You take a rubbing anyway. Might sell it as a map fragment from the Lost Kingdom. A little mystery goes a long way. You sleep beside the tree, which was probably unwise. That night, you hear rustling. Not animal, not wind. You sit up, heart racing, clutching your mule's bridle. Then you see them, cloaked figures slipping through the trees. Too quiet, too graceful. You lie flat, pretending to be a rock. One trips over your cart, curses, then silence again. At dawn, they're gone. Your cart is untouched. You roll away before breakfast. Maybe the runes are cursed. Or maybe it was just a group of teenagers practicing stealth. You don't ask questions. You just walk faster. Darnwick appears with a stink of wealth and desperation. Mansions near hovels. Gold rings on mud-crusted fingers. You rent a corner of the square for half your coin. But it's worth it. You polish your relics. You shine the mummified hand. You even hang the runestone rubbing on a string. Looks mysterious. People love mysterious. Your first customer is a noblewoman with tired eyes and a silk cloak dragging in the dirt. She buys the dried hand. Says it reminds her of her first husband. You don't ask. Later, a miner offers you 2 nuggets of real gold for the spoon with the skull. He says it's lucky. You smile and say, "Very." He walks off whistling. You're on fire. Coins clink. Praise reigns. You're practically a prophet of pocket lint. Then it happens. A boy points at your cart and yells, "Fake!" His father shushes him, but the damage is done. Eyes turn. You feel sweat bead under your tunic. You take a breath. "Of course it's fake," you say cheerfully. "That's what makes it special. If it were real, it'd be in a cathedral. But this is personal. Affordable. Yours to hold." The crowd chuckles. The tension breaks. You sell 2 pendants and a candle stub from a made-up monastery. You're learning. Truth isn't currency, belief is. By the end of the market, you've doubled your coin. You treat yourself to a proper room at the Copper Cat. There's a mattress. There's stew. You fall asleep mid-chew. Next morning, you meet a traveling scholar. He's pale, twitchy, and convinced a secret cult operates in the hills nearby. He shows you a book with strange drawings. "They worship an antlered god," he whispers. "Left behind relics." You pretend to be unimpressed, but you scribble a few of the symbols into your notebook, just in case you ever need to discover something rare in the future. On your way out of Darnwick, you give a coin to a beggar with clouded eyes. He touches your hand and mutters. You walk the road of the story weavers. You nod politely. He might be crazy. He might also be right. You head toward the coast now. There's a seaside town famous for its driftwood, saints, and miracle fish. Sounds like profit. Plus, you miss the sea. Sort of. The wind sharpens. The land flattens. Your mule picks up pace. She likes salt air. And you, relic merchant, spinner of tales, survivor of bandits and bored nobles, you begin planning your next pitch. Holy stone kissed by the sea. Yeah, that'll sell. The road hugs the sea now. You walk with one eye on the path and one on the water. It shifts with moods, gray one hour, blue the next. Seagulls scream overhead like tiny salesmen who've lost their minds. Your cart rolls easier on the sandy gravel. The mule hums, a kind of low, wheezy sound that you've decided is her version of contentment. Or defiance. Same difference. Ahead lies Gullbrook, a fishing village with big legends and small logic. You've heard whispers. Glowing fish, wooden saints washed ashore, and a bell that rings by itself during storms. Basically, jackpot. Every inch of folklore here drips with resale value. You arrive mid-morning and are hit immediately by salt, smoke, and the unmistakable smell of old fish sunbathing. A boy runs past with a net twice his size. Someone is arguing with a goat. It's your kind of place. You head straight to the harbor market, where locals hawk pickled things in jars and nets made of hair. You rent a plank and cloth stall from a man who charges in oysters. Fine. You trade him a wooden charm you found near Darnwick. He says it looks like a sea god's tooth. You don't correct him. You didn't know sea gods had dental plans. You set up quickly, display the driftwood saint you bought from a peddler last week, actually a carved fence post, scatter a few shells around it, and prop up a bottle with a rolled scrap of parchment inside. Map to the drowned abbey, you tell people. But I can't guarantee it floats. The locals love it. One woman trades you 2 smoked eels and a string of green beads for the saint. You hate eels. You keep them anyway. Might become currency again. That afternoon, a man in a red cap approaches your stall. His boots are crusted with salt. His eyes scan every inch of your display like he's counting sins. He taps your bottle map. Real? He asks. Depends which way you read it, you reply. He laughs. A real laugh, rough and barking. You're full of it, he says. But I like that. Come see something. This is how you end up following a near stranger down a rocky path past the tide pools to a cave half hidden behind a tumble of weed-covered stones. Inside, it's cool and smells like iron and damp secrets. The man lights a stubby candle. Here, he says, gesturing to a lump covered in barnacles and sea moss. Found this after a storm. You scrape gently. Underneath the crust, a shape emerges. It's a pendant copper, shaped like a fish swallowing a star. Weird, interesting, marketable. You offer him your smoked eels. He hesitates, then shrugs. Never liked fish anyway. Deal. Back at your stall, you clean it up. It's clearly not ancient. Probably a lucky charm dropped off a ship deck, but the salt stains help the illusion. You add a tag. Relic of St. Varn, keeper of the storm net. Sounds legit enough. A scholar visits next. Young, nervous, wearing too much wool for this climate. He picks up the fish pendant and goes pale. You know what this is? You nod slowly. Of course I do. You don't. It's from the lost colony on Sable Isle. I wrote my thesis on them. He rattles off something about sunken manuscripts and ceremonial fishing dances. You just blink and let him talk. He buys the pendant and leaves still muttering. The next few days are good. You sell half your stock. You add sand to the bottom of a bottle and label it Dust from Atlantis. Someone buys it. Twice. You start sleeping in an abandoned boat. It's cozy, dry, and shaped like a cradle. You add straw and dream like a baby with debts. One night you hear drums. Not festive, not rhythmic, just there. Dull and distant, like someone knocking from under the sea. You ask a local in the morning. She shrugs. Tide ghosts, she says. They tap on bones and barrels when the moon's wrong. Historians still argue whether sea folklore stems from trade routes or just fermented fish oil. You don't care. It sells. You leave Gullbrook with a full coin pouch, a new walking stick made from twisted driftwood, and exactly one superstition heavier. The road takes you north now, up through scrubby hills, past lonely inns and long fences made of uneven stones. One morning, you find a trail marker. 3 stones stacked beside a twisted root. Someone's left a tiny braid of hair on top. You don't touch it. You know better. You stop at a cliffside village called Wexley Crag, where everything leans, houses, people, conversations. The wind is cruel here. It seems to speak. You trade a story about St. Lauria's flaming goats for a hot bowl of stew. You're getting good at stories. They don't have to be true. They just have to be told. While resting, you hear whispers about a mountain shrine deep inland. The monks there, someone says, keep relics that whisper during storms. Another adds, one once turned water to honey. Sounds promising. Sounds profitable. You take a sketch from the speaker, a rough drawing of a circular medallion with rays and teeth. On the trail again, the wind changes. Colder now, thinner. The mule begins to grumble with every step. You feed her dried apples and whisper bribes. She remains unconvinced but trudges on. 3 days later, you find the shrine. It's not what you expect. No gold, no fanfare, just a stone building nestled in pine trees, roof patched with bark and hope. A single monk greets you, wrinkled, barefoot, and very much unimpressed. You offer trade. He refuses coins but asks for news instead. Tell me of the sea, he says. So you do. You give him tales of glowing fish, bottle maps, saintly fence posts. He listens like a child and thanks you like a priest. He gives you a small item wrapped in cloth. A bell tongue, he says, from a broken bell that never rang. You nod, say nothing, and cradle it like gold. As you leave, the monk calls out, keep lying well, merchant. The world needs liars with purpose. You don't know whether to be flattered or insulted. Probably both. The next town is called Kinnelwatch. You arrive during a festival. Masks, ribbons, and loud singing. Perfect cover for a merchant with relics that may or may not whisper during storms. You unpack the bell tongue, polish it, and set it on a velvet scrap. Add a little sign. The bell that slept through Armageddon. No one knows what that means. Doesn't matter. It's mysterious. A dancer buys it. Says she'll hang it from her belt to keep nightmares away. You nod solemnly. That's what it's for. You lie very well. You also sell the twisted driftwood staff. Say it was once used to ward off plague rats. One buyer gasps. Another insists on blessing it with herbs. You provide the herbs. They're just mint leaves. They don't need to know. You're nearly out of stock now, which means it's time to collect again. Someone mentions an old battlefield nearby. Abandoned. Haunted. They say the ground still bleeds. A boy says, eyes wide. Or maybe it's just iron in the soil. You go, of course. You find rusted buckles, a torn boot, an arrowhead fused to a rock. You take them all. You'll clean and rename them later. The boot? That's now the left foot of the Phantom General. Back at the market, you try it out. A group gathers. You tell them the general never removed his boots, not even in death. Still marches at night, you add. Best not to wear it. They buy it anyway. You're tired, but richer. The stories come faster now, like waves. You wonder sometimes if you're becoming one of them, a relic of your own craft, moving from place to place, bartering fiction and belief. Then again, you don't wonder long. You pack your cart. The road calls, and the mule somehow has learned to smirk. You wake with straw in your hair and a coin in your boot. Not one you put there. Probably a tip from the masked dancer last night. Or a warning. Hard to tell. The mule is already awake. She's staring at you with the same look your uncle used to give after you forgot to feed the chickens. It says, I tolerate you. Barely. You both trudge onward, leaving Kinnelwatch behind. The road splits, left to the lowlands, right to the Spine Hills. You go right. More mystery, more legends, fewer tax collectors. The hills rise fast, pulling the breath from your chest. Trees thin, winds howl. You pass a group of pilgrims wrapped in red thread. They don't speak. One carries a wooden hand. No context. You don't ask. Midday, you spot smoke curling above a ridge. You climb, boots slipping on loose shale. At the top, a squat house, half stone, half bone. You blink. Yes, bone. The walls are patched with old antlers and horn tips. There's a fish skull over the door. Lovely. A woman steps out. She wears a cloak of woven feathers and a grin made of shadows. You sell or trade? She asks. Both, you reply, but mostly dreams. She laughs, invites you in. Her home smells of herbs and wet wool. Shelves everywhere. Jars filled with teeth. Stones with faces. Feathers inked with symbols. She brews something green. You try it. Regret it. She nods. She shows you a pendant made of river glass and deer spine. Wore it to a ghost wedding, she says. Bride never blinked once. You offer the monk's story in return. About the bell that slept through Armageddon. Her smile widens. We're the same kind, she whispers. She trades you a bundle of charms and something she calls a crow's last laugh. It's a bone carved with spirals. You don't argue. Before you leave, she gifts you a stone. It's warm. That's a memory, she says. Yours? Someone else's? Doesn't matter. Sell it well. You promise you will. You always do. Downhill now. The wind grows playful, tugging your cloak like a child in a candy shop. You sing a little to pass the time. Badly. A traveler flags you down, short, sturdy, and wearing a scarf made of old flags. He asks if you've seen the Whispering Tree. No, you say, but I've heard it's rude. He laughs too loud, offers directions, says it's haunted by a bard who forgot his last verse. Sometimes it finishes your sentence, he adds. Sometimes it finishes your thoughts. You head there immediately. The tree stands alone in a clearing, blackened by fire but still alive. Its bark is etched with symbols, some faded, some fresh. You sit beneath it. Wait, first nothing, then a breeze, then a whisper. You forgot something, it says. You sit up straight, heart doing cartwheels. What? No reply. Typical ghost bard behavior. You carve a tiny sigil into the bark. Add one of your own relics to the roots. The deerspine pendant. A trade of sorts. You murmur a thank you and leave quickly. Not running, just walking with conviction. Very fast. Later, you reach a bridge strung over a dry gorge. The wood groans. The nails have clearly given up on life. A sign hangs crooked. Cross at your own risk, hope not included. Halfway across, you hear humming. You pause. A girl sits at the far end. No older than 15. Bare feet, wild hair, eyes too calm. She's surrounded by birds, real ones. One perching on her head, two on each shoulder. You look like someone who wants a secret, she says. I always want a secret, you reply. She hands you a folded leaf. Inside, a single white feather and a flake of obsidian. From the nest that was, she says. You nod solemnly, even though you have no idea what that means. She laughs. Sell it to someone who does. You do. In the next village, a scholar nearly faints when he sees the obsidian. Claims it's from a lost tribe who trained crows to speak prophecy. Historians still argue whether that tribe existed or was just the fever dream of one lonely monk with bird envy. Doesn't matter. He buys it. Triple your asking price. You throw in the feather for free. You're generous like that. As the sun dips low, you enter a wide field dotted with stones shaped like fingers. Long, pale, and pointing skyward. Locals call it the choir. No one agrees why. Some say it's a petrified army. Others say the earth just got bored and made shapes. You walk among them, dragging your fingers along the cold edges. The wind whistles a tune you almost recognize. You sleep there, curled beside the tallest stone. In your dreams, the stones sing. Not words, tones. Notes from a song the earth forgot. You wake with that melody stuck in your head and a squirrel trying to steal your coin pouch. You win the battle. Barely. In the next town, Duskwatch, you find yourself surrounded by towers. Not tall, just many. Bells hang from every ledge. They chime whenever the wind sneezes. You set up shop near the fountain, where old people feed birds and children toss pebbles at statues. You display your latest find. A red glass pendant from the feathered woman. Label it Heart of the Last Crow Queen. Pure nonsense. You love it. Sells before lunch. A young man trades you a bundle of dried petals shaped like stars. Claims they only grow once every 7 years. You pocket them for later. Someone will believe that. An old sailor tells you of a beach where bones wash up polished and pale. Not human, he says, then winks. Mostly. You're tempted, but your cart is full again. Your stock rich with suggestion and suspicion. You made a decent haul. You head for a border town, part market, part mystery. You've heard they host auctions where the currency is rumors. You fit right in. On the way, you pass a crossroads marked by 7 carved faces. One is crying. One is laughing. One is chewing a stick. No one knows why. You leave a coin under the crying one, just in case. By sunset, the border lights flicker ahead. You and the mule both sigh, which is weird because she doesn't usually do that. You pat her side. We made it again. She does not return the gesture. But she doesn't bite you either. That's something. Your cart creaks behind you, heavy with half-truths and handcrafted fiction. You hum the stone song under your breath, the one from the choir, a merchant's lullaby. The road rolls on. So do you. The border town is called Grinholt, not for any cheerful reason. The name comes from an old mayor who apparently smiled once and never again. His statue still stands near the west gate. They say if you look directly into his eyes, you forget your own name for an hour. You try it. Nothing happens. Either you're immune or you never really had a solid grip on your name to begin with. Grinholt is part fairground, part fortress. The streets twist like puzzle pieces. Buildings lean like drunks in mid-conversation. It smells of roasted chestnuts, horse sweat, and ambition. You love it immediately. The auction square sits at the center, surrounded by low stone benches and what appears to be a retired gallows repurposed into a wine bar. A man in a fox mask pours you a cup of something red and fizzing. You drink it. Your teeth buzz. He tells you tonight's auction accepts 3 currencies: truths, rumors, and regrets. You check your pouch. Plenty of all 3. Before the sun sets, sellers take their places. They don't hold goods. They tell stories. The better the tale, the higher the bid. One woman offers the scent of her grandmother's memory. A boy trades the time he almost drowned and how the sky looked from below. You watch, fascinated. When your turn comes, you step forward and offer the dream you had beneath the choir of stone songs, of old melodies forgotten by the earth. The crowd quiets. Someone gasps. You swear, a woman weeps. A pale man in a feathered hat bids 6 secrets and 1 forgiven sin. You accept. He hands you a pouch of folded paper. Each holds a phrase: he was never your cousin. The coins were fake. The door was always open. You add them to your growing archive. Might come in handy. You spend the night in a hayloft above a goat pen. The goats snore. One dreams aloud. Beans. So many beans. You sleep like royalty. Next day, you sell 3 of the secrets to a traveling nun with more tattoos than mercy. She trades you a jar labeled holy dirt, used, and a chain made of melted candle wax. You nod like that makes sense. Around noon, a group of children surround your cart. They don't ask for toys or sweets. They want stories. You tell them of the girl at the broken bridge, of the deer spine pendant, and of the monk who trained ants to spell prayers. They squeal with delight. One gives you a worm in a walnut shell. It's lucky, she insists. You tuck it behind your ear. Why not? Later, you meet a smith with no fingers. He works with bellows and teeth. Literally. His assistant is a girl who chews copper wire until it bends. You commission a pendant made of forked iron. Tell him it's to ward off boredom. He grins. Then you'll need 2. You trade one of the folded secrets for it. Before you leave Grinholt, you attend a performance at the Moon Tent. Entry costs 1 lie. You whisper, "I never cried when she left," and the bouncer nods you in. Inside, stars painted on the canvas ceiling. A woman dances with knives while a man swallows shadows. A goat recites poetry very badly. The final act is a masked figure who juggles your memories. Literally. You see them hovering. The smell of snow, the first coin you ever earned, your brother's laugh. You leave before he drops 1. Outside, it's raining petals. Someone somewhere got married or buried. Hard to tell. You head northeast, toward a place the map calls the Nowhere Market. It only appears on certain days, when the moon forgets its shape. Conveniently, that's tonight. You follow odd signs carved into tree bark. At one point, your mule refuses to move until you promise not to sell her again. You never did, but she's a suspicious creature. The Nowhere Market sits in a fog-shrouded hollow. Tents glow from within. People whisper in languages you almost understand. You pass a booth selling shadows. Another offers echoes in tiny jars. One stall trades feelings, numbness, envy, giddy hope. You set up your own humble corner. On your cloth, the forked iron pendants, the lucky worm in a shell, the memory stone, and the crow queen's laugh. Your first buyer is a noblewoman wearing 7 veils and no shoes. She buys the laugh for a tune she whistles. 3 notes that make your teeth ache in a good way. A hunched man trades you a bottle labeled rain that fell upside down for the worm shell. You smile, then pocket it. Near midnight, a cloaked figure approaches. No face, just soft humming. They offer a cube of light in exchange for the memory stone. You accept. They vanish. Not metaphorically, literally. You don't ask questions. You pack up. The market fades as dawn breaks. You walk through what was a bustling hollow and is now just empty grass. You and the mule stare at each other. You both nod. Weird night. You make camp by a creek. Build a fire. Cook something edible adjacent. Stare at the cube of light. Pulses softly. You press it to your chest. For a moment, your heartbeat slows. Calms. You wrap it in cloth and hide it in your cart. Some things are too beautiful to sell. Yet, next morning, your boots are gone, replaced with a pair of sandals made from bark and spider silk. You look around. Nothing but trees and silence. Thanks, you say, though you're not sure to whom. The sandals fit perfectly. You journey east. A new rumor has surfaced of a ruined monastery where relics walk at night, trading gossip and glowing faintly. Apparently, one of them can predict futures if you hum to it. Scholars scoff. You, of course, are already on your way. You pass through marshes where the fog mutters secrets. One of them accuses you of stealing a kiss in a rainstorm. Rude but accurate. You pass a village where time runs backward every Thursday. You buy a loaf of yesterday's bread and a jug of next week's wine. Both taste confusing. At last, you reach the ruined monastery. Vines strangle its stone walls. The bell tower leans like it's tired of pretending. You wait until dusk. As the stars appear, the relics stir. You expect monks' bones and solemn robes. Instead, a parade of animated objects. A spoon with opinions, a candle that critiques your posture, a stained glass eye that blinks. One relic, a cracked hourglass, sings softly. You hum back. It speaks. You will one day forget all your names but remember every story. You grin. Sounds about right. It gives you a single grain of glowing sand. You pocket it. That'll sell well. You sleep under the stars, guarded by opinionated silverware and a mule who finally admits, with a nudge, that you're not the worst human alive. Dawn breaks. You rise. Another day. Another road. Another secret to find. The path today twists like a lie told too well. Narrow dirt trails between hedges thick with thorns. The mule is less than thrilled, pausing every few steps to glare back at you like you personally invented brambles. You hum to yourself. It helps. Not much, but a little. You're heading toward a city no one agrees exists. Some maps call it Halder's Gate. Others call it Cinder Shore. A few just draw a flame and let you interpret it. The last merchant you met whispered, "It's not a city, it's a test." Sounds promising. As you walk, you check your wares. The hourglass sand glows softly. The cube of light is still safe. You've also added a spoon that speaks in riddles and a charm made of beeswax and regret. It hums if you lie near it. Loudly, you stop for lunch beside a crooked bridge, roasted lentils and stale bread. A man appears from the reeds, soaked to the waist and wearing a crown made of spoons. He asks if you've seen his kingdom. You point east. He nods gravely and disappears. You don't ask questions anymore. You just log it under Thursday stuff. The road forks. A signpost spins slowly. You touch it and whisper, "I seek the gate." It stops. Points toward a tree that shouldn't be big enough to hold a tunnel, but does. You duck through. Your mule follows, after some coaxing and a short argument involving a bribe of dried figs. You emerge in a twilight city where everything glows faintly. Buildings seem built from melted glass. Streets curve in gentle spirals. It smells like ink and lightning. This is the city they argued about, Cinder Shore or Halder's Gate or the Test. Whatever it's called, it hums. People wear masks here. Always. Some are painted wood. Others are delicate lace, metal, bone, or smoke. No one speaks directly. They hum, or whistle. A few snap their fingers in careful patterns. It's oddly soothing once you get past the eerie part. You pass a square where dancers move in slow circles. One wears a wolf mask, another a starburst. They part to let you through. You nod thanks. No one nods back. You're allowed one night in the city. It's the rule. Everyone knows. No one says. You set up your stall in a quiet plaza. Your mule stands guard, though she mostly eats plums from a nearby crate someone abandoned. You display your cube of light, your riddle spoon, the charm, and the hourglass grain. First, nothing. Then a child approaches, wearing a mask shaped like a teardrop. She places a string of black pearls on your table and points to the spoon. "It speaks," you say. She nods. Then, without a word, she taps a rhythm on your palm. You realize she's saying thank you. The spoon mutters, "The fish remembers." No context. Very on-brand. You nod back. Later, a man in a glass helmet trades you a vial of sand that shifts color with the wind for the beeswax charm. "I lied often," he whispers. "I won't again." He walks away barefoot, leaving golden footprints that fade quickly. A robed woman buys the hourglass grain for a box she says holds a breath from the moment after fear. You open it. She stops you. Not until the end, she warns. You believe her. At midnight, a procession moves through the streets. Everyone stops. You do too. A figure in a mask shaped like a question mark glides past. No feet visible. They pause in front of you, hold out a single coin, blank on both sides. You accept it. The figure vanishes. Your mule sneezes. The petals that burst out of her nose smell like cinnamon. Morning comes slowly. You pack up, tired in a deep bone kind of way. The city starts to fade. You walk faster. Just before the gate vanishes, you slip through. Back on the path, the sun is bright. You blink for a full minute. You've picked up a shadow that's not yours. It walks beside you, carries no load, and flickers slightly when you speak. You decide not to worry. Yet, next, you head to a place the old maps call the Ink Hollows. It's where books go to die, or be reborn. Historians still argue whether the place existed or if it's a metaphor that got out of hand. Either way, you follow the rust-colored river north. You find the hollow 3 days later. It's a crater filled with sunken shelves, broken quills, and drifting parchment. Ink stains the soil. It smells of old paper and ambition. You meet a keeper blindfolded, cloaked in blank pages. They ask you what word you fear most. You answer without thinking, "Forgotten." They nod and hand you a feather. "Use it once," they whisper. "Then burn it." You accept. The feather hums in your fingers. You wander the ink hollow. Each step leaves words in your wake. Some true, some not. Your mule spells oats with her hoofprints. She's not subtle. You find a book that writes back. It asks you riddles, then answers its own questions. One entry reads, "Why do we trade? To share burdens disguised as goods." You copy it into your journal. You leave the ink hollow at dusk, ink-streaked and thoughtful. You've gained 2 books, one silent, one sarcastic. The second one keeps making fun of your boots. You don't respond. You like those boots. That night, you dream of the glass helmet man again. He's building a tower from truths no one will believe. You offer him a lie to balance the structure. He thanks you and weeps. You wake to birdsong and a mild headache. Pinecone fell on your skull. Your mule shrugs. You press on, past fields of rustling wheat and lonely scarecrows. A woman sells jam by the roadside. You buy a jar labeled, maybe raspberry. Tastes like nostalgia and something else. You don't ask. At a crossroads, you meet a girl selling the future in small doses. She hands you a token. "Tuesday," she says. You tuck it into your pouch. It hums when near the feather. Your cart grows heavier. Not with goods, with memories. Objects carry them. The coin from the masked figure. The box with post-fear breath. The sarcastic book. You wonder, are you still a merchant or a collector? Then again, maybe there's no difference. You pass a crumbling windmill. A cat watches from the top, eyes like stars. You wave. It does not wave back. Cats rarely do. Evening comes again. You camp near a stream that runs backward for an hour each dusk. You let it wash over your hands. You remember things you didn't know you forgot. 1. Your first customer was a knight in disguise. He traded you a rose made of promises. 2. Your cart once caught fire from laughter. 3. You have always walked east, even when you thought you were going west. You fall asleep listening to the whisper of reverse water and dreaming of a staircase that leads to a room with no ceiling and too many doors. In one, the spoon is waiting. You don't open it. Not yet. Morning is a whisper. Cold light, soft dew. The kind of breeze that feels like it's checking in just to say, "Still alive." You stretch under your patchy wool blanket, grateful for every ache. Your mule is already chewing on something. Maybe grass, maybe the corner of your journal. Hard to tell, and honestly, at this point, you don't care. The path today coils through pine forests and fog so thick you lose sight of your own feet. Birds call in slow, strange notes. One sounds like a flute halfway through a yawn. It's oddly calming. You're heading to a mountain town known mostly for its silence. No name on the map. Locals just call it the shush. They say voices echo there too long. Historians still argue whether the silence is tradition or trauma. Either way, the town thrives without noise. You walk for hours without speaking. Even your mule picks up the vibe, her hooves barely making a sound. It feels like walking inside someone else's memory. Even the birds seem hesitant. By midday, you see it. Houses carved into cliffs, ropes connecting balconies, ladders made of knotted silk. Smoke curls upward from chimneys without a sound. Bells hang from every doorframe, unmoving, unwelcome to ring. You enter a courtyard lined with runes. No one greets you, yet eyes peer from behind woven curtains. You find an open patch of flagstone and unpack your wares in silence. A woman approaches, barefoot, wearing a shawl dyed with ash. She points to the sarcastic book. You offer it with a raised brow. The book, of course, quips, "I'd rather stay, but her vibe is better." The woman signs something in swift motions. You catch the gist, thanks, good journey, don't follow. You nod. The exchange is made. She leaves behind a wooden ring that smells faintly of saffron and thunder. A young boy approaches next. He doesn't point, just looks. You show him the cube of light. He smiles, tiny and crooked, then opens his hand to reveal a marble that pulses like a heartbeat. The trade is silent but profound. You feel lighter afterward. The cube always felt like a question waiting to be asked. Now it belongs to someone who might know the answer. That night, you eat boiled roots and some jam of mysterious origin. You still have no idea what maybe raspberry means. The mule falls asleep standing, and you write in your journal. Silence has texture, like velvet or snow. You don't notice until you try to carry it. The next morning, the townspeople leave gifts by your cart. A scarf knit with threads that change color with your mood. A tiny stone with a hole shaped like a star. A sealed envelope labeled, "Open only during thunder." You pack everything and leave before sunrise. No goodbyes, only nods and soft gestures from the shadows. Back on the road, the fog breaks. You follow a river downstream. It babbles freely, like it's been holding in stories too long. You listen, but it only speaks in splashes. By midday, you reach a flatland where the wind never stops. A windmill groans in the distance, lazily spinning even though no one seems to be home. You stop to rest and encounter a trio of monks playing a silent game of dice. One of them grins and invites you to join with emotion. You play a round, win twice, lose once. The prize? A pouch of dried apples and a small mirror that shows your face from 10 years ago. Younger, more hopeful, worse posture. You chuckle. They wave you off, still without a word. You continue on, heart a little warmer. Then the desert begins. The first hour is deceptive. Just dry grass and golden dirt. Then the sand takes over, and the wind bites. Your mule squints at you like you've planned this personally. You offer her water and a quiet apology. She accepts the water. They call it the glass wastes. It was once a city, they say, turned to sand by a wizard's tantrum, or maybe a meteor, or both. Historians still argue, of course. You walk past broken columns, melted statues, and the occasional shimmer of something not quite real. Mirage? Memory? Both? You see a woman walking backwards. Her clothes shimmer like oil on water. She says nothing, just walks backward through the sand until she fades from sight. You stare after her for a while, then realize your left shoe is full of scorpions. Not biting, just attending, like tiny armored fans. You remove the shoe. They leave. One bows. You're not even surprised anymore. You find a marketplace made of bones. Not human, probably. Stalls stand empty except for one. A vendor with a blindfold and a jackal smile offers you a choice. Trade memory for passage, or pay with truth. You offer a truth. I miss someone I can't name. He nods solemnly and gives you a scarf woven of mirage light. Wrap it around your eyes when the wind screams. It'll lie for you. You don't ask what he meant. You just nod and move on. That night, the stars are far too close. One blinks at you. You blink back. You dream of the cube of light. It's floating above the boy's bed. He reaches out and suddenly knows everything. You wake up weeping. No reason. Just salt on your cheeks and a tightness in your chest. You press forward, past sand that sings, and dunes that shift behind your back. You speak to your mule more often now, just to hear a voice. She doesn't answer, but she listens. That's enough. Finally, the sand breaks. A stone road appears. You step onto it like a swimmer reaching shore. Ahead, a gate made of bronze and thorns. A city waits beyond. You don't know its name yet, but the air tastes of cinnamon and storms. Bells toll in uneven rhythm. You grip your pack tighter. Something important is coming. You just don't know what yet. The city gates groan as they open, not out of protest, but as if clearing their throat to announce your arrival. Inside, everything moves with slow urgency. Children chase paper birds. Vendors shout offers in 4 languages at once. Dogs sleep in the street with the confidence of royalty. You lead your mule past fountains carved to look like weeping saints. No water flows, just wind whistling from deep within. You try not to gawk, but the buildings are impossible. Some lean like they're whispering secrets to each other. One spirals up and up until it disappears into a roofless sky. Another is shaped like a shipwreck frozen in time, its windows curved like sails. You wonder what zoning law allowed this. Locals call this place Ever Market, not because the market is big, but because it never ends. It's less a place and more a living argument. Each district claims to be the heart. Each merchant swears they have the one thing no one else sells. And maybe, somehow, they're all right. You set up in the northern quarter, cheaper rent, better shadows. Within minutes, the crowd arrives. A woman in armor trimmed with copper buys your candle that sings lullabies. She's heading into war but says she can't sleep without it. You trade it for a feather pen that never runs out of ink and occasionally writes on its own. Once it sassed a king. Next, a lanky man with 7 rings on each hand wants your timepiece shaped like a spider. You hesitate. That piece feels dangerous, but his rings hum softly, like they're alive. He offers you a cube of ice that never melts. You shake on it. Later, you spot a girl, maybe 12, staring at your oldest map. The one that shows rivers no longer there, mountains that have moved, and cities swallowed by the ground. She points, then signs something. You recognize it. Thank you, please keep safe. You give it to her for free. She leaves behind a single earring shaped like a crescent moon. You don't wear earrings, but you keep it. That night, you wander the alleys of Evermarket. The smells are endless. Roast garlic, honey-soaked bread, fried frogs, and something that smells alarmingly like burning questions. You pass a shop with no name, lit only by green flame. Inside, an old man offers tea brewed from forgotten leaves. You accept. Tastes like warmth and a memory you haven't had yet. You tell him so. He laughs. Then it worked. He asks nothing for it. You wake the next morning feeling heavier, not with worry, just more full, like you've eaten truth for breakfast. The mule eyes you carefully. You nod. We'll stay one more day. Today, you're buying instead of selling. First, a cloak stitched from shadows. The merchant swears it hides you only when you're scared. You're not sure if that's comforting or terrifying, but you buy it anyway. Next, a jar of whispers, corked tight. You shake it once and hear a soft "not now" from inside. You leave it alone after that. You stop at a tent filled with clocks. None tell the same time. The keeper, a woman with gray hair and one glass eye, offers you a clock that counts backward. It tells you how long you've got left, she says. You ask, left to what? She smiles. That's the mystery. You leave it behind. You try one last stall, tucked behind a crumbling statue of a fox in a robe. Here, the vendor has only one item, a door frame standing free with no wall attached. He says, step through, lose something, gain something, no refunds. You laugh, but something in your chest stirs. You step through. Everything blinks. You stand exactly where you were, but the world feels slanted. You check your bag. Your sarcastic book is gone. In its place, a note written in that familiar snarky tone. You'll miss me, but not enough to come back. I've got work to do. You smile. The mule chews on a bit of rope. You take that as divine approval. That night, a storm rolls in, soft thunder, low clouds, no rain. You wrap yourself in the mood cloak. Turns a deep gray. You don't feel sad, but maybe your heart's still sorting things out. You stare at the stars and think of the boy with the cube of light, the girl with the old map, the spider clock, the whispers in the jar, the clock that ticks backward. Every item told a story, so did every trade. You start to write in your journal, but the pen moves first. Maybe you're the story now. You chuckle. Maybe. Sleep comes gently, as if tiptoeing. Next morning, you pack up. The city watches you go. Bells ring. Windows blink shut. You don't say goodbye. You just nod, and Evermarket nods back. You follow the old road south, one you've never taken. Curves through valleys thick with mist. You trade silence for song, humming to yourself as you walk. Your mule joins in, sort of. She's tone-deaf, but confident. You admire that. At the edge of a great lake, you find a floating village. The houses drift lazily on rafts, tied to each other by knotted rope. Children fish with mirrors. Adults trade news by tossing sealed bottles across the water. You float among them for 3 days. You give a bottle of bottled moonlight to a woman who hasn't slept in weeks. She trades you a sketch of a city no one remembers. A city shaped like a question mark. You stay 1 night longer. And then it's time again. Always time. As you leave the floating homes, the last child waves and shouts, "Tell us what you find." You promise. You just don't say when. On the path ahead, there's talk of a tower that disappears and reappears at will. Of a canyon where people trade shadows. Of a market made entirely of dreams. Your bag is lighter now, but your heart is not. And neither is your story, because now it's part of theirs, and theirs of yours. You adjust your cloak, which flashes a soft gold. Hope, or mischief, hard to tell. You walk on. The road always calls, even when you don't answer, especially then. Dawn finds you in a field of mirrors. Not tall ones, just shards, scattered across the grass like yesterday's truth cracked open. You step carefully. Your mule refuses entirely. She waits at the edge, chewing oats like someone who's watched too many poor decisions unfold. The mirrors reflect skies that aren't there. Some show a version of you with different eyes, different scars. One shows a cart filled with something glowing. Definitely not your cart. You make a note. Avoid fields with identity crises. You're heading east now, toward a village rumored to be built entirely upside down. Roofs below, foundations above, logic optional. You're skeptical, but skeptical never stopped you before. Halfway there, you meet a woman riding a goat the size of a chair. She offers you a string of pearls in exchange for your mood cloak. You decline politely. She nods, then eats a pear, offers you the core, and vanishes behind a curtain of vines. You pocket the core. Someone might want a pear relic later. You arrive at the upside-down village by midday. It is, unfortunately, exactly as described. Houses dangle from trees. Ladders go up to go down. People walk on ceiling beams. A child waves at you while hanging upside down from a rope bridge. Gravity seems optional, or at least very confused. They let you in only after you promise not to question anything. You agree. It's a good general rule these days. You set up shop near a bench nailed sideways to a wall. People browse sideways too. You quickly learn to adjust your table so things don't slide off into philosophical despair. Your first customer is a baker who only makes bread during full moons and arguments. He buys your marble that beats like a heart. Says it'll go well with his sourdough. You don't ask. Later, a boy trades you a coin with 2 heads for your jar of whispers. One always lies, he says. The other also lies, but nicer. You believe him. At dusk, you're invited to a dinner that takes place on the underside of a large oak. Everyone sits upside down. The stew is delicious. No one explains how the bowls stay full. You just nod and pretend it's normal. Before bed, an elder offers you a map drawn in dust on the floor. It only works if you're lost, she says. You thank her. You're always a little lost. You sleep in a hammock strung between two inverted chimneys. The stars look unusually close. One winks. You wink back. In the morning, you wake to find your boots filled with feathers. Not unpleasant, just unexpected. You shake them out and keep a few. Could be relics. Wings of the last silent rooster. Sounds credible. You leave the village through a door carved into the ground. It opens upward. Naturally. The road twists again, this time into forest so dense it feels like walking through a thought someone gave up on halfway. You pass stones with faces. They hum. You don't hum back. Eventually, you reach a clearing filled with empty thrones. Dozens of them. No names, no crowns. Just waiting. Some face each other. Some face nothing. You sit on one. Creaks. A soft wind passes. You whisper, "Not yet." The forest accepts your answer. You move on. Soon, the trees thin and the path glows faintly underfoot. Bioluminescent moss, perhaps, or just ambition. Either way, it's helpful. At the next crossroads, you meet a juggler who isn't juggling. She just throws things in the air and walks away before they fall. It's kind of impressive. She hands you a box. Don't open it until the box wants you to. You agree. The box is warm. You find a town made of glass and shadow. The people there are kind, quiet, and reflective, literally. You trade the pearl core and one feather for a mirror that shows who you almost became. He smiles. You smile back. You sell the map that works only when lost to a woman with 100 questions and no luggage. Perfect fit. You sleep that night in a room with no walls, just curtains made of sighs. And somewhere in the middle of the dream, you hear your own voice whisper, "You are not running anymore. You are wandering." You wake up smiling. The mule does too, probably just gas. But you'll take it. The road waits. So do you. But not for long.